We're talking free agent pickups, rival fantasy, and two-start pitchers here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are brought to you by Rival Fantasy. I'm Clay Link here with Todd Zola, the FSWA Hall of Famer. Always a pleasure. Todd, how are you doing today? Are you getting amped for this big Mexico City series?
Yeah, mainly.
'Cause I'm getting a little nervous because I have Joe Musgrove in a lot of spots.
Yeah, I'm messaging back and forth with a friend who has got Darvish and Musgrove in a head-to-head league, and so my ERA is in danger this week. So yeah, it kind of, hey, listen, I'll take the L. I forgot all about it, and I blew the rankings this week because of it. I should have made an adjustment, and it just struck me middle of the week, and I'm kind of kicking myself and really embarrassed about it. So we want to mention it today for those that are still have an opportunity to adjust for the weekend. You mentioned Musgrove, you Darvish. On the other side, the Giants side, we got Ross Stripling and I think Alex Cobb all involved. And the deal is, as our friend Derek Hardy, if you're on Twitter, check out his string of tweets. This is Coors Field on steroids. There's a run. If Coors Field, well, not if Coors Field factors about run factor is around 120. This is around 140, and the over under for tomorrow is already posted at 15. That's 1-5, folks. That's an 8-7 game. That's a 9-6 game. Or as I told my buddy Paul, because he's got Musgrove going, hey, maybe he wins 15-1.
Hey, I'd be good with that. That's just it's a tough environment to pitch in. It should be kind of interesting, but just kind of a wacky run environment that we'll have to navigate. Should be kind of a unique, fun thing, though.
The elevation is even higher than Coors, and the field isn't nearly as big. Check out Derek's tweet if you're into this sort of thing. Otherwise, just kick back and expect a bunch of runs to be scored.
Well, FAAB ran in the RotoWire Stake League last night, as it always does on Thursday night, Friday morning, and I was the big spender here. James Anderson last week grabbed Mason Miller, but in doing so...
Tanner? Did you get Tanner?
No, he actually went last week on spec.
Okay.
Tanner Bybee?
Yeah.
That's who you were talking about, right? He went last week on spec for like 2, so that's looking real nice.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, because James grabbed Mason Miller and in doing so dropped Gavin Stone. I'm really thinking the Dodgers are going to need this guy to get hitters out pretty soon. So I grabbed Gavin Stone for actually 34 since Mason Miller went for 43, I think. And I had like 78 left and I desperately need starting pitching help. So one of the top pitching prospects I had as a stash, dropping James Paxton, which I should have done probably a couple weeks ago.
Which means that Paxton will come back this week. No, that's my bad luck. Yeah, that's how things work for me. Stone. I haven't gotten to the Dodgers yet, but I'm reviewing my playing time on Friday, and I look at their starting rotation, and I'm wondering where I'm going to get 162 starts.
Syndergaard's been just brutal too.
Yeah, I'm looking to see who I'm gonna distribute the starts among, and it's like, wow, this is a team that one would think would have taken care of that, but they, whether it was hands tied with Bueller or not Bueller, Bauer, who's to say? But yeah, this is not the Dodgers team we expected.
Sam Hilliard, plus JD Martinez sounds like he's going to be out again tonight, maybe ending up on the IL. We'll have to see.
Yeah, but Will Smith is back tonight.
Yeah, that's a big one. That is a big one. Sam Hilliard was the top pickup in the Stake League last night on the hitting side. 23. I mean, this feels like an overspend, just needing some offense.
Well,
you still start 2 UTs in this league, though.
Right, but Michael Harris is back, right?
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So this isn't to say that Hilliard won't continue to get at bats, especially because Eddie Rosario kind of woke up a little bit this week, but it's still not what's to be expected. And Marcell Ozuna has yet to wake up. So there could be, at bats for Hilliard if Brian Snitker decides to relieve playing time of one of his veterans.
Yeah, there may be one of those.
But I agree.
paths for him.
That's a hefty bid.
Yeah, 23 out of 100. Connor Joe was 17 out of 100. He's been playing well for Pittsburgh and didn't really pan out with the Rockies last year as people were hoping he got hurt, didn't he? But
a little bit.
He's been playing well. I could see it. Then Jaron Duran at 14. What do you think of him with Boston?
Woo! I think he is a new player. Somebody sat him down. Whether it was Alex Cora, whether it was David Ortiz visiting, I don't know. But the demeanor, you can just sort of tell that he's businesslike. I mean, he there's a play. Everybody remembers the inside the park homer where he lollygagged it. He was in left center field. I think he was in Baltimore, maybe, and that's where playing. That's where he started the play, and the ball was put down the line, hit off the high wall, and went over Verdugo's head. And Duran ran all the way over to back him up. Yeah, you're supposed to do that. That's what you're supposed to do. Excuse me, right? But based upon last year's play, it's noteworthy.
Wow, that's a strong endorsement on Duran and kind of the changes he's made to become it. Interesting.
Numbers guy that we are, but you do pick things up, body language, and he's hit the ball hard and he's got some really good takes at the plate, patience. So I think we could be seeing it. And is he going to play against lefties? Probably not, Duran, but I think he's going to be usable in deeper leagues, especially where you get to play matchups.
And this would qualify as a deeper league. It is a weekly lineup league, so you don't really get to play matchups. Right. A 16-team league, I think, he could certainly be useful and a nice net positive at $14.
Yeah.
Vince Velasquez went for 11. He's been pitching well, and I respect the manager who picked him up, if you're listening. But I've been down that road.
Exactly.
Like a dozen times or more.
It is a what have you done for me lately attitude, but yeah.
And he pitches in Pittsburgh, great pitcher's park.
Right.
Can't really.
Yeah, but
it didn't even have a bid on him, actually.
But that offense, you just can't. They're going to hit in Yellowstone right now. I'm just kidding.
Well, geez, I mean, Cutchin's looking like vintage Cutch. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's running.
Logan Taylor Allen, Logan T. Allen of the Cleveland Guardians.
Okay.
He was $8, the lefty. So definitely be sure you're picking up the right Logan Allen if you're going shopping there. Robbie Grossman, who I dropped recently, he's $7 ad. Griffin Canning for $6. Victor Robles, who's been running pretty wild, 5. Blake Sable for 3. Bailey Ober for 2.
That could end up being interesting.
Yeah, that was a James ad. He's stepping in for who is it?
Kenta Maeda, who, I mean, we don't know right now.
Rough. Yeah.
The arm hurt. He just had the surgery. He could be out a week. It could be out another year. We just don't know. So that's an interesting spec. Well, he's going to pitch at least short term. Ober. I mean, he could pitch longer than that.
Christian Bethancourt for $1. Only a one catcher league, but that's kind of nice. I'm kind of jealous of that one. He's been playing really well. Adrian Hauser for $1. Travis Jankowski still hanging around and playing a lot for Texas.
He's running. For $1. He's running.
Yeah, Rich Hill for $1. Joey Lucchesi on a $0 bid. Nick Senzel also 0. Trevor Williams. Kyle Manzardo. James getting back in the stash game there on Kyle Manzardo. Yan Gomes, who's been a productive catcher so far. And then finally, Hunter Harvey of Washington. So active week on the FAAB front.
Manzardo, I think we talked to Jason Collette. Maybe it was while you were cavorting with your friends. Maybe I don't recall, but he was we talked about when you do minor league drafts, you either go for someone that's going to once it comes a point where you're either picking someone with a higher ranking that's going to play in 2 or 3 years, or the lower ranking that could break it this year. And Manzardo was I'm competing. I'm going to jump a couple air quote better prospects. And then James pointed out, I was like, he was my number 7 prospect. He's not really jumping that much.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
I was wondering, did he get drafted in AL labor? I imagine so, right?
I do not know, because AL labor was probably a little bit, I mean, I may have him and just don't remember. But AL labor was a little before I fell on the Manzardo. It actually, I don't want to say that because I picked him up in XFL, which we drafted that weekend. So I don't think, because I think my only bat is Cavan Biggio. And I think Manzardo went a little bit before me in AL labor. I'm checking the roster.
That'd be a nice surprise if you just happened to.
Yeah, well, Colette's in that league, so I'm guessing he's gone.
And James. So
yeah,
probably gone. But yeah, he's certainly interesting as a stash. Rays are just so darn good.
Unless I'm spelling his name wrong, he's not taken.
That could be one that somebody really opens up the wallet for there.
Yeah.
He gets the call. We'll have to see, but
yeah, I'm spelling the name right, and he's not taken. That's interesting.
I feel like the Gavin Stones of the world, Gavin Williams, and yeah, Manzardo, if you can stash. Obviously, you have to have a league that kind of allows you to stash, and you don't have to plug the guy in right away when you pick him up. You could reserve him. But if you have the bench space, these guys, I love prospects, though, Todd.
Yeah, well, and the thing with labor,
I get carried away.
Yeah, the thing with labor, it's the old school rules where, I mean, you could draft a minor leaguer, and then once he's on reserve, you can bounce him in and out. But you have to drop the player that's in your roster. No, he is not. He is not drafted in AL labor, so that is going to be an interesting. And in Tout Wars, you can be prescient, and you kind of alluded to, you're willing to play him for a week, take zeros, and then he's on your reserve. Labor, he has to be in the majors in order to make the pickup. So that's going to be interesting because, we mentioned that James is in the league. I think Colette's in this one. I don't, maybe not. But yeah, there's going to be some battles if Manzardo. I don't know that he's going to be called up anytime. Yeah, Colette is in the league. Because right now, Yandy Diaz is kind of hitting pretty good.
It's been unbelievable.
Yeah, and there's
Tampa. So he got like 5 homers, doesn't he?
Yeah, and
amazing.
Well, everybody does in Tampa. Well, but he's playing a lot of first base because you got Paredes and you got Walls. You've got players playing pretty well at third base. So if Manzardo's called up, and maybe it's to DH, I don't know. But right now, Tampa is firing clearly on all cylinders, and it's not like they need a spark.
Yeah, good point. Well, we will get into the 2-start pitchers for next week, the first week of May in 2023. But let's talk briefly about Rival Fantasy. Todd, they are sponsoring the podcast. We appreciate their sponsorship, and you and I have been kind of familiarizing ourselves with this fantasy game and having some fun. Would you agree with me?
Familiarize? They want me to stop playing. I'm winning so much. No, I've had a good week.
Nice.
We shall lead. Yeah, there's several different games. I think we're both playing the fantasy book where you choose 2, 3, or 4. I think up to 5. Although the return is best on 2 or 3 players to go over under a projected fantasy points, which is essentially the same as the DraftKings scoring system. So if you're familiar with how the DraftKings points go, DFS, it's the same for here. I happen to do DraftKings points on a daily basis for my own site, so I have it done, so I'm able to compare to my own projections, and then because the projection's a projection, what are the chances the player goes over or under that projection based upon the rival number of points. I've been sticking with pitching because I just feel that it's more predictable. In that, I mean, hitters are more predictable over the long term, but on a one-day scenario, the points is kind of a hitter's average points over the course of the season. But Trout's going to go 2 for 4 with a homer one day and 1 for 5 the next, and it averages out to X amount of points. I know there's too much I play the hitting because we can talk about it. They're a sponsor. Let's talk about it. But when my bigger bets are on the pitching.
We talked last week about how they did change the scoring system to be kind of more reflective of the DraftKings, or more in line with kind of industry standards. And I really like, because these feel really like kind of tight lines. Like I'm with you that I'm kind of leaning more toward the pitchers on any given day, because I'm with you that they are just, the best hitter in the world can go 0 for 5 on any given day.
But and you lose your bet. And in the way
it's kind of like you have to get all these right. So I think I'm with you. I kind of tend to stick to 2 or 3 instead of going to 4 or 5. And I've been, like you, focusing primarily on the starting pitchers in a given day. And it sounds like you and I both kind of have the same guy locked in as our number one kind of choice. It's the over on Framber Valdez tonight against Philadelphia. It is a minus 150 Houston line tonight in Houston. Over under 7.5 runs. So while he has to outduel Aaron Nola hasn't really looked like Nola. And I think relative to the other over-unders, Framber's a tick below where he should be.
Right. And what I like about it's like 16 points. What I like about it is he doesn't need to get the win to make the over. I mean, a lot of times when I go I like betting the under. It's not as exciting because I don't like rooting for a guy to get lit up. It's just, it's just not, it feels weird. But to me, the under is the better bet because so much more can go wrong than can go right. But yeah, with Framber, I just felt that he was going to get the innings and the strikeouts to get the fantasy points, and he didn't need the win. It would be nice. Well, if he gets the win, that means we're going to win the bet because he didn't give up runs, etc. But yeah,
I just want to say, Lito, you said bet right there. It is a fantasy game. It's not really like a betting situation. Correct. It is a fantasy game, so just keep that in mind.
Correct.
But when I look at Framber and I see his over-under as being below guys like David Peterson, who I do like, but Eduardo Escobar too, that doesn't square with me, pal. You know what I mean? It just a little disrespect below where he should be. So that's one that you and I both kind of separately came to our own conclusions that Framber Valdez needs to be locked in on. Rival on the over tonight. And what was your number 2 choice tonight?
Eduardo Rodriguez on the over. Now I forget who he lines up against. He's been pitching well lately, and at 16 points again.
Erod's got Baltimore tonight,
right?
In Detroit.
It's Baltimore in Detroit. He doesn't need to win the game to make those points because he gives innings and he gives strikeouts. And I think Baltimore will be without Austin Hayes again. And Rodriguez will hold the platoon edge on Gunnar Henderson and on Cedric Mullins, which I think helps. Of course, Adley's a switch hitter and Santander's a switch hitter. So there's still good batters in that Baltimore lineup. But I like in Detroit. I like Rodriguez to have another good game. And if he gets the win, great. He doesn't need it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I totally hear where you're coming from. The win is such a big thing, but if you can get a guy where the over-under, doesn't necessarily force you to get that is right. a huge thing. My second choice is going to be Jack Flaherty on the under against the Dodgers. Surface numbers have been okay, but he's been really walking a tightrope. Didn't he have that no hitter into the 6th where he walked 7 or something ridiculous?
Yeah.
So he's got how many walks does he have this year? He has 19 walks in 27 in the 3rd innings. We mentioned earlier that JD Martinez probably going to be out of the lineup today, it sounds like. But so the Dodgers, I've seen, Jason Hayward and guys like that batting pretty high in the order. So not necessarily the juggernaut offense it's been over the years. But a team that's patient like that, I just think can can kind of outweight Jack Flaherty, wait him out, I guess, and just kind of make him shoot himself in the foot with walks. So I'm taking the under on Flaherty. The number is 18.79 fantasy points.
Yeah, I came close. And matter of fact, I think I do have a second lineup in with Flaherty included, because I agree, he just didn't happen to be the one that I sent you.
Okay, yeah, that's. I mean, he's kind of an obvious choice, I guess you could say. But I think even though he's still got pretty good stuff, he just hasn't really had the same control and command that he did when he first broke in. So I'm expecting him to have some troubles tonight against the Dodgers. Who's your next pick tonight for Rival Fantasy?
Yeah, the game requires you to pick two. I am going with the third. Excuse me, at least this particular lineup. Gonna go with Rich Hill. I don't like. I like using home players on the over, and I like using away players on the under. I know Hill's done really well. It's at Washington. All right, it's Washington, but there's still enough hitters on that team. To me, Rich Hill's like a knuckleballer that hit this and try to hit it at somebody. Sometimes it works. It's worked a lot lately, but it doesn't always work. I think that he's vulnerable on the road, and it was here Flaherty for this particular lineup, and I went with Hill. I mean, like I said, I got Flaherty in a different contest.
Nice, man. Well, good stuff. I hope it hits for you and you continue your success tonight on Rival. We'll tell you a little bit more right now about Rival.
All right.
A new MLB season means it's time for a new kind of daily fantasy baseball. Rival Fantasy is the fantasy platform reinventing the way daily and weekly games are played. And they've brought new games to the ballpark this year that fantasy players won't find anywhere else. Rival Fantasy's games include Fantasy Bingo, head-to-head player challenges, and Fantasy Book, which Todd and I have been talking about. And users with Fantasy Book can select over-unders for 2 to 5 players. With games like this, daily fantasy has never been better. Right now, RotoWire listeners can get a $50 protected first play. That means if you win your first play, you keep your winnings. But if you lose your first entry, Rival Fantasy will fully refund you up to $50. Go to play.rivalfantasy.com/signup and use code RotoWireMLB at signup and deposit a minimum of $25 to get your first entry on Rival protected up to $50. Now's the time to step up to the plate and become a Rival today. Welcome to the arena. Also, a word quickly from Vivid Seats. Baseball is back. Swing into the MLB season with Vivid Seats and score tickets to all the hottest matchups and biggest games of the year. Every crack of the bat, every deep center fly, and every heart-pounding double play of your fantasy team live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats rewards, now you can earn rewards with every single purchase. Each ticket you buy gets you closer to your reward. Just buy 10 tickets, then simply cash in your credit toward your 11th ticket purchase. It's that easy. And here's a pro tip. Buy tickets for your whole group, split the bill, and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the plate to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2023 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for terms and conditions. All right, Todd. Anything else on your mind before we get into the 2-start pitchers for next week?
Nah, let's leave some time for the 2-start pitchers. It's an interesting slate this week.
Yeah, we're already coming up on 25, and this usually takes a good while. So let's dive fully into it.
I'll talk fast.
Zach Gallen has been probably, if not the best pitcher in baseball, right up there. I think he's still among the league leaders in strikeouts. Had that brilliant performance the other night. This is probably a 6 on Zach Gallen.
Yeah, on our calculator, he's the second highest pitcher next to Garrett Cole. So yeah, no, it's definitely up there. We'll go 6.
Been really impressed with what he's done. It's at Texas versus Washington too. So
28 straight innings, 28 straight scoreless innings.
Do you think we see Brandon Pfaadt for Arizona soon? I think people are waiting on that. But
Well, they sent Jameson down. Tommy Henry
right.
pitched just well enough to get another start. Ryan Nelson has not pitched all that great. There's only 5 games for Arizona this week, so I think we're waiting a week. But I think Henry and Nelson better have good games versus Washington, or else I think we might.
Yeah, only 5 games next week for them, 2 off
Yeah,
days. So,
yeah.
may not see FAAB, but I do think it's coming real soon. Bryce Elder's been fantastic. He does have to go to the Mets, but a good pitcher's park. Then versus Baltimore. Not willing to go 5 on him, but geez, I'm having a hard time seeing any scenario where I'd really bench him with this 2-step. 4 sounds high off the tongue, but I'm going to go with a 4.
I'm going to go 3. Miami did hit him pretty hard, 3 homers last game, only 3 strikeouts and 5 1/3. But, I mean, this is a guy that we probably would have said 0 coming into the season. So even the fact he's getting 3s and 4s is a good thing.
Just a quick aside, I had the daily lineups page up at RotoWire, and I just wanted to note, because we were talking about DFS and Rival, that it does look like there's some rain issues tonight. So if you're playing DFS or Rival Fantasy, definitely be sure to navigate, because it looks like you picked Erod. Looks like an 81% chance of rain in Detroit. Minnesota's got some weather issues. Same with Washington and New York too. So just be aware. I wanted to at least mention that, because I forgot to when we were talking.
Maybe I get Flaherty in the lineup after all, huh?
Hey, maybe at least one of them.
My main lineup, I should say. Yeah.
What about Kyle Wright of Atlanta? It's a different 2-step, because they must have a wraparound series against the Mets or a makeup or something.
Yeah.
So Kyle Wright's got a little bit of a different 2-step. It's at Miami and then versus Baltimore. The league's only 20-game winner last year. The regression monster has caught up, but man, I definitely could see the appeal here on the 2-step. I'll go with a 2.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go higher, because 2's where I'm going.
Yeah, 2 feels right for me. This was a guy that when I create this StreamYard room, I usually send our guy Alan Sislowski just a projected 2-start pitcher or 2 to use as like our cover boy for the little thumbnail image or whatever. And I mentioned Tyler Wells is an interesting one. I know he's picked up in a lot of spots, but at KC, then he does have to go to at Atlanta, but a 2.79 ERA, definitely an interesting option in leagues where he's still available. 0.72 whip, 23 to 3K to walk. What do you think? Are you buying in on 28-year-old Tyler Wells of Baltimore?
Yeah, don't love at Atlanta, but did see him pitch against the Red Sox in the latest series. Great homestand for Wells. Yeah. Am I going to go 4? At Atlanta's tough. I think I'm going to go 3, but I'm absolutely using him.
I'm going to go 3, but and I don't know like the rostership percentages, but man, in leagues where he's available, I'd really like to grab him, because everything's looking great under the hood. He has given up 4 homers, but I mean, that's not bad in this environment. You would definitely. Sorry?
I say he's not hugely dominant. You mentioned 23 to 3. I think that's like in 26 innings, I think, something like that. So it's not a K an inning, but
29 innings actually.
Right, but I think he's picked it up. So I think we're looking at an improvement in strikeouts going forward.
I hear you. I asked this of James last week, and I'd ask you too, because it relates to the run environment and pitchers, of course. Do you think at this point you feel confident in saying that this is a juiced ball year in 2023?
I don't know if it's juiced ball, because I think homers have fallen back. I just think it's I think the a few more base hits is increasing the run environment. And if last year wasn't such a huge dip, I don't think we'd be noticing, because we're really back to where we were the previous few years, other than last year. I think last year was such a big dip that we're over exaggerating, maybe not the word, but it feels like it's a bigger jump than it really is compared to the previous seasons other than this. Now, Having said that, it's comparing it to the entire year, and run scoring goes up over the course of the year. So, it could project to be even higher than it is, and we don't know how the pitching's gonna. There's so many variables. We don't know if the faster clock is going to affect pitching down the line, but I keeping in mind it's the same for everybody. I do think that I don't know that it's a juice ball, but it's definitely a higher run scoring environment.
Anecdotally, I feel like the ball's a little juicier. I feel like every time I look up or I hear the ball off the bat and I look up at the screen, it's just carrying. But you're right, there's so many factors in play. It's hard to nail down exactly. But it does feel like the ball's a little juicier than.
As we're talking,
I'm
going
to
to look
me.
up average fly ball distance, because to me that's the way to tell. But all right, we'll keep going.
Yeah. Well, if you find that, let us know. But yeah, no pressure. Corey Kluber's been absolutely brutal. It's funny. You look back a month ago, I took him in the reserves of 12-team Tout Wars, and you just wonder, even though it was a month ago, what the hell was I thinking?
Well, he had that one great start that you go, well, he's back. And then the next start, he can't throw a strike. And when Kluber can't throw a strike, that's weird.
Yeah, the Klubot has come apart at the seams, it would seem. But I'm pulling for the guy. I hope he's able to right the ship a little bit. But a 1-4 record, 6.75 ERA, and then versus Toronto at Philly, I think he's a 0. Honestly, I can't do it.
Yeah, well, the last game out was against Baltimore, and it was 6 innings, 1 run, but only fanned 3. Didn't walk anybody. That was the one win. Wow, can you give him a 0? Yeah, you can. With these two at Philadelphia, I think you can. I think you can give Kluber a 0. Would I actually do it? You know what? I'm going to give him a 1 just because I don't know that I've had the intestinal fortitude to sit him if I had him.
I hear you. Thanks for being realistic and giving a realistic grade there.
I'm not. Sorry. Anybody who does it, I'm not going to secretly laugh at him though.
Tanner Houck's got a 3-1 record. He hasn't been as sharp lately, but a 4.50 ERA. He's got the same tough two-step in terms of opponents versus Toronto at Philly. So while I went Kluber 1, I'm willing to consider Houck. I have him in a couple leagues. I think I'd prefer to sit him down, but I think I'll give him a 2 because I feel like somewhere I'm going to have to start him.
Maybe overthinking it, but Toronto is so right-handed that I feel he has an opportunity to neutralize him a little bit. So I'm going to stick with the same 2 and hope that you get by that Toronto start.
All right, sounds good. So we both have 2 on Tanner Houck. Drew Smiley followed up that 7 2/3, 1 hitter, 10 Ks with another solid outing. 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 Ks. We've been down this road before, but it seems like Smiley's just generally underrated. He always pitches well for stretches. It usually blows up eventually, but he still can turn it on. At Washington versus Miami, I kind of like this. I think I'm going to hedge a little bit and go the 3, but Smiley's been really impressive.
Yeah, my pet line. He pitches well between injuries. Yeah, you're not going to get a better 2 start than this. I'm not going to go 4. I'm kind of with you. I think we both thought about saying 4, but we're going to say 3. But start him. We're going to be comfortable starting him.
Yeah, not so much the case for Jameson Taillon for me. I guess with this 2-step, certainly in the mix, especially in leagues where he's available, he should probably be on some waterfalls. Feels a little bit like a trap with this 2-step, though. Like, opponents are so good, but he just hasn't been very good. So I'm going to give him a notch below Smiley at 2.
Yeah, is he coming back from injury?
Yeah, he's definitely been hurt a little. He's advancing. This is definitely not set in stone. Could return to the Cubs rotation in early May if all goes well, but he's nursing a groin injury.
Yeah, and I don't know how many innings he's going to be able to go. I may have gone 3. If I was comfortable, he'd go 5, but I'm going to stick with 2.
And actually, yeah, he's very much tentative. So all this is tentative, but he in particular
Right.
is
Okay.
still he's keeping his arm in shape, but we don't really know exactly when he will be back for the Cubs.
Right.
Luke Weaver for the Reds at San Diego versus the White Sox. Not the same guy who broke in and looked good as a rookie, so I'm going to go 0 on Luke Weaver.
Man, the White Sox are tempting. They are in a rut, huge rut. But who's to say if they pull out of it by then?
It's not a very good team.
Yeah, Weaver looked good in his first start, but yeah, I'm going to go 0 as well. Does not rack up the strikeouts to offer a floor for what he gives you.
I do love what Graham Ashcraft has been doing, though. It's a bright spot for the Reds. No 2-star pitchers for Cleveland next week. But for the Rockies, Ryan Feltner, he's going to be home for Milwaukee, so that pretty much automatically takes him out of the mix. Then at the Mets, so Ryan Feltner's a 0.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, I'm just logging all these so we can recap at the end of the podcast here. All right. Looks like my computer has briefly frozen. Here we go. Michael Kopech, he of a 7.01 ERA versus Minnesota at Cincinnati next week in the first week of May. Where are you at on Michael Kopech and his performance so far this year?
Not that high. He's had a couple of good ones, but has not broken out as we expected, or maybe some people hoped. And we kind of mentioned the team just isn't getting it done either at this point. Can't blame the manager anymore. But at Minnesota, at Cincinnati, don't hate him. I'm going to go with a 1 because I don't know that he's a 0, but I'm not psyched about it.
Yeah, I wonder what is going on here, because everybody, and myself included, wanted to point to Tony La Russa and kind of say he was dragging everybody down, but maybe the milk's just gone bad there on the south side. I don't really know what's going on. I have Kopech as a 1. What did you say?
Instead of 1, I don't know the BABIP, but it looks like he's got a high hit rate, which should come down, and maybe that's what's affecting all the walks, because when you have guys on base, 381 BABIP. No, wait, that was 2018. 303 BABIP, which is a little high, but it's not terrible. So, yeah, I mean, home run for fly ball is up. He's walking, and the walk rate's way up. I can see sitting him. I really could.
Yeah, I could too. That's why, the 1 is very low score for a guy who, as you mentioned, people were really hoping would shine this year. Michael Lorenzen for the Detroit Tigers. I'll always have a soft spot for Lorenzen, the Reds' best center fielder for a few years somehow. But I'm going to go 0 here versus the Mets at St. Louis. Has not been pitching well, so I can't see any real argument for starting Michael Lorenzen.
I want to say 1 or 2, probably because I know I have him on some draft champions, but I'm going to try really hard to find somebody better.
Wish casting him.
I'll say 1 just because, but I'm kind of with you in that I'm not going to trust it.
I hear you. Well, Luis Garcia of the Houston Astros, scoreless in his last 2 starts. So over his last 13 innings, he's allowed 5 hits, no runs, 16-3 K to walk. That's good for a 0.62 whip, spotless ERA, of course, over that stretch. And he's not able to rock the baby anymore. He had to kind of change the wind up a little bit, but he seems to be making those adjustments just fine, Luis Garcia.
Yeah, this probably comes from a place I'm higher on him than most. That's why I'm going to say 4. But you didn't give. I'm going to guess you're 1 below that, but I'm going to say 4.
That's funny because I'm actually going to go. Well, I was tempted to go one higher. I think realistically I need to settle at 4, but I was
Okay, at Seattle
versus San Francisco. Yeah, at Seattle's kind of tough.
San Francisco. Who would I mention? Chicago, fanning the second most. The Giants are fanning the most.
Really?
Huh. Yep.
Yeah,
and who knows what'll happen in over the weekend in Mexico City? So they may not be fanning the most come Monday.
Well, we both settled on 4s for Luis Garcia.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Right. So good stuff. We'll pause briefly, get back to these 2-star pitcher grades momentarily, but first, a quick word from our Blue Wire sponsors. All right, we are back on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link and Todd Zola. Glad to have you with us on this Friday. Thanks for those who've stopped by to hang out in the live stream. And if you're listening on a traditional platform, of course, we appreciate you as well.
Can we break in with some semi-breaking news?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Garrett Whitlock is to the injured list with right elbow ulnar neuritis.
Jeez.
And Brian Bayo's back up.
Yeah, tough start for Bayo, and I know he was disappointed about the demotion, but another opportunity. And would you give him another look in fantasy, Bayo? Not yet.
A wait and see for me.
Okay.
Little bit, the ulnar neuritis. Isn't he the second pitcher to go down with that?
Somebody else had that.
Yeah, and we gotta kind of still in a wait and see period, but yeah, that's not good news.
Yeah, definitely not. So for Kansas City, it's Zach Greinke versus Baltimore versus Oakland. On paper, that's a nice 2-step, but Greinke's 0-4 with a 6.10 ERA and doesn't miss bats. I'm tempted to go 0, but with the 2-step, I will go 1. I have him, I think, in a draft champions. Maybe I'll consider him there.
I'll mimic that is your exact thoughts because exactly.
No 2-star pitchers for the Angels. Shohei Ohtani is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, but he
4-0.
He cost me my rivals.
Did he cost you one of your rival?
Yeah, I had him going over his number. He won the game, but he gave up so many runs. He didn't get and I think I picked 3 pitchers, and he was the one that did not come through for me.
He had such a great outing on the mound. Then he almost hit for the cycle too. He fell just like a few feet short of the home run.
Yeah.
Just give the guy the MVP award right now, basically. Tony Gonsolin back for the Dodgers.
Sort of.
Made 65 pitches in his debut. Good to have him back. Only 3.1 innings, so he's still in the process of building himself up.
Didn't he? Didn't he leave with an injury? I know that he thought
he was back from the ankle. Did he have another injury?
I thought maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but I thought that he maybe not. Okay.
Well, I just ran a quick Twitter search. I'm not seeing anything about a new injury.
Yeah, you're right. There was somebody else that came back recently from an injury and left. Maybe it was Maeda. But I thought there was even somebody else that after getting hit on the ankle, like similar to Gonsolin, although it was a different scenario, had to leave. Anyway, but never mind. We should edit this out in post, but we won't.
I won't do you that solid. No, it wasn't that bad. I appreciate you, at least mentioning it so we could look and clarify, do our due diligence here on Tony Gonsolin. Again, 65 pitches, 3.1 innings, so maybe a while. Plus, 3 walks against only 1 K. So probably be a little while before we see the Tony Gonsolin that we saw last year. We'll probably never see first half Tony Gonsolin again, frankly. Versus Philly at San Diego. As he gets stretched out, I think I'm only going to go with a 2 on Tony Gonsolin.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go 2.
All right. Sandy's got a 5.04 ERA, but versus Atlanta at the Cubs. I'm not willing to bump Sandy down from 5 status yet. I think if you're benching Sandy Alcantara at this point, you're just overthinking it. I don't think many fantasy players are going to do that, but just wanted to say that. So he's still a 5 for me.
I'm starting him if I have him, but I can't give him a 5 right now. I'm going to give him a 4. He's not getting the strikeouts, and he's susceptible to contact. I'm starting him, but I think he's going to be a little outside of the top 20 when I do the rankings this weekend. A lot because of the Atlanta start, even though it's at home. He's not the same guy.
So what's your worried level here? Like out of 10, sounds like you're pretty
keeping in mind that
concerned.
I was on the concerned side coming into the year because of the defense, the ground ball pitching and the shift and having Wendell / Birdie be behind him and second base with a rise, etc. I was concerned coming into the season. My concern's the same. I think I may have had him, if we're ranking aces before the season, I wouldn't have given him a 5. He would have been like my top of the 4 list.
Well, don't forget, too, that Sandy Alcantara has been battling biceps tendonitis recently. That does kind of worry me.
Yeah.
Because tendonitis, I guess it can calm down, but that's not something that just goes away completely.
You're right.
Right away. So he was okay in his return, but yeah, the tendonitis is something you want to keep in mind. 26 Ks, 9 walks, only 3 homers allowed. I think Sandy will be all right. I'm not as worried as you, Todd, but as you said, you were more worried than I was coming into the year.
Yep.
Eric Lauer at Colorado, at San Francisco. I have Lauer on a few teams, but whenever I see at Colorado, I got to go pretty much bump him down to, I was going to say 0, but I could see maybe a 1 here.
Yeah,
risky 1 though.
In another time, we both be like to talk about we're seeing some improvement or continued growth and etc. with Lauer. He's still inconsistent, but we're starting to see some baby steps. Yeah, at Colorado though, I'm gonna go 1. I almost want to go 2, but that kind of destroys my. You know what? It's at San Francisco. I'm going to be confident enough that he gets by at Colorado that he's going to handle San Francisco. So I am going to go 2.
Okay, I hear you there. I'm just marking down something on the sheets. All right, next up.
Zola's an idiot. That's what you write down?
No. Just a timestamp. I would never say that. Tyler Mahle, you mentioned what a disaster the White Sox are right now. Mahle gets those White Sox in Chicago to start the week. Then at Cleveland, I'm still a Mahle believer, and this is a nice little setup for him. So not a 5, but I think he's higher than a 3. So I'm going to go 4. Is that high to you?
Other than this time I'm looking at our note, so I can't elbow impingement. So they didn't have any imaging yet, and he's being treated with anti-inflammatories. So we'll call this one tentative. I'm going to go 3 to account for the tentativeness. But if everything's the go ahead, I think he's a 4. But when you're setting your lineups, double check to see where we're at.
It's a good caveat to add because, with this injury concern, I could see that dinging his grade a little bit for sure. Back of the right elbow, that impingement. Still not on the IL, but day to day, I would think, an IL is still a possibility. So definitely check Tyler Mahle's status early next week. All right. We're making good progress here. Let me get back to the 2-start pitchers. Max Scherzer's going to be back. Man, that suspension was annoying if you had Max Scherzer. Versus Atlanta, versus Colorado. And I kind of thought he would be almost benefit from the pitch clock, but it seems like maybe he's having some fatigue issues as a result. I'm still going 5, though, on Scherzer.
Oh, yeah, going 5. He's going to have an edge to him. He's well rested.
Cody Senga, people pretty excited about him, and that ghost forkball is your favorite term, sexy, Todd. But he has a 1.58 ERA, not really in line with his 4.15 ERA. So 1.58 whip, 4.15 ERA. 18 walks in 26 innings. Does have 32 Ks, but also 5 homers allowed. Hard to know what to make of this guy right now. Again, I like that trademark pitch of his, but Cody Senga, I think I'm going to go at Detroit versus Colorado. Seems like a good step. I'm going to go 3, I think.
I'm going to go 3, and if I have him, this is the week I hope that he kind of, breaks through, gets some confidence, and propels himself the rest of the season, because the matchups dictate it.
Domingo Germán, would you give him any mind? I mean, versus Cleveland, then he does have to face the juggernaut that is the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa Bay. He's struggled this year, and the home start against Cleveland maybe gives him a little appeal, but I think I might go just a 1 on Domingo as like a desperation 1.
I think, the struggles are home runs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got a 1.08 whip, 5.54 ERA. I'll bet the FIP is lower because it neutralizes homers. 33-7 strike, 33-9. I don't know if struggle's the word. I think he's been a little bit snake bit with some command and control issues. I'm going to go 2. I think he's better than his 5.5 ERA, 5.54 ERA.
I got you. Well, I got a 1 on Domingo Germán, but I have you marked down as a 2. Oakland doesn't have any 2-star pitchers for next week. Then Philadelphia, Taijuan Walker. You mentioned some injury caveats, and here's another one. Taijuan's got a forearm issue. He had a encouraging visit with the Phillies medical staff Thursday, according to Philadelphia Inquirer. So trending in the right direction to make that start, I think. But that will ding his grade for me here. Against the Dodgers versus Boston, I think Taijuan's only a 2.
Yeah, he's walked a lot of batters and the more command and control issues. 4 homers and 14 walks. And for those who are saying I'm being redundant, I'm come from the school where control is throwing strikes and command is putting it where you want within the strike zone.
Yes, thank you. It's not, I know it seems like nitpicking, but they're not just interchangeable.
Right.
They describe 2 different things in the baseball realm. Not to be pretentious, but
but I think people do juxtapose them. People being people that get paid to talk about baseball on TV while you're watching it.
Yeah, it's command is different from control, and control is just about limiting walks, and command is putting it in the zone where you want it, hitting your spots. It's 2 different things. Anyway. Roansy Contreras at Tampa Bay versus Toronto. Tough couple starts here for Roansy, but I've liked what I've seen from Contreras generally. 3-1 with a 3.58 ERA. Where are you at this week on Roansy Contreras, Todd?
Could we consider this a signature week if he pitches well? I mean,
against these opponents, I'd have to say so.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm going to go 3, but yeah, I mean, the Toronto could burn him, but it is in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to go 3. And we are, right now, I mean, Pittsburgh has the magic.
Still Pittsburgh.
We don't get to talk about Mitch Keller because he only has 1, but was it last night he pitched pretty well. So we could be seeing some fun stuff out of this team.
I think my rival pick last week was going against Mitch Keller's projection. I got that one wrong.
Yeah, well, I got it right.
The Reds have gotten to him in the past, but he had their number, certainly.
Yeah.
He carved him up. Blake Snell's been a big disappointment. There have been so many disappointments on the pitching side, maybe just for me, but it's been tough watching guys like, Snell and Manoah get knocked around. Snell's 0-4 with a 5.48 ERA. He does get the Reds at home and then versus the Dodgers at home. So he gets that inherent, pitching at home bump. But that second start is tough. Ugh. I'm gonna go with a 3, but I have to admit that's kind of me wish casting a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2. I mean, I'm looking now. 5 innings, 100 pitches, 95 pitches, 105. This is the old Snell, where he's walking people, he's striking people out, and he's just not getting deep into games. And I don't think that works. I was about to say too bad. Well, he would have been interesting to see in Mexico City, but yeah, I'm gonna go 2, and I even think that may be too high.
Oh God, Snell in Mexico City would have been just a disaster. Logan Gilbert for the Seattle Mariners. It's at Oakland versus Houston. You love the first step there, not so much the second one, but Logan Gilbert, man, let me just double check something here.
Mostly
I think
good.
he's better than a 4.23 ERA.
Yeah, he had one bad start that I recall that kind of blew him up a bit. Well, the last 2. Yeah, the last 2. 14 strikeouts, 1 walk, you figure is good, but he's given up three home runs the last 2 games. He's still a 4 for me. I mean,
4. Okay.
Yeah, he's still a good pitcher, and I'm not going to take it away from him. Good pitchers should pitch pretty well against good teams, and I think he's a good pitcher.
Ross Stripling, you kind of alluded to in passing before at Houston.
Okay, so we have him going. That means he's not going in Mexico City this weekend. Okay.
Let me see who the Giants got lined up to start.
He was. Weekend. They may have changed it. That's
okay. Let me just double check though, just so to be sure we have it right. So this weekend for the Giants, it is going to be Manaea and then Cobb. So yeah, that.
Okay, so Manaea was Stripling. So Manaea was inserted. All right. Before I was kind of going, I don't care about this weekend. I don't have anybody going. I have Manaea going. Oh no. Oh no.
Hold your breath. God. Stripling, I think, has got to be a 0. Maybe the home against Milwaukee makes him a 1. I guess I'll go with a 1.
You wanted to be higher because you think he's better than this, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're coming from. But he only pitched 5 innings on opening weekend. He hasn't pitched, 5 innings since. So I'm going to go 1 as well, but I think you can justify sitting him.
I hear you there. Okay, next up, I think this one's interesting because he's struggled and been dropped in a lot of leagues. Steven Matz versus the Angels at home and then versus the Tigers. So Matz has been brutal. He's got a 6.23 ERA, but would you consider picking him up for this 2-step, Todd?
I think he has had a little bit of defense letting him down, if you will, a little bit, but he's not missing bats either. But the question he asked me while I'm vamping, because I don't know, is will I pick him up? You know what? Yeah,
would you consider? Would you have him on a list at least?
With the Angels at home, yes, I would. In St. Louis, yeah, I would. I don't love it, but yeah, I would. And then home against Detroit. So it's cross your fingers against the Angels and make up the difference against Detroit. Yes, I would be targeting him if he was dropped.
So what was your number there? I'm going to go 2.
I'm going to go 3 because, I'm not going to pick up a 1 or a 2.
You know what? I'm going to go 3 as well because, I don't put a ton of stock.
No, I'm going to just kidding.
I don't put a ton of stock into like XFIP necessarily, but
I do.
Well, it's not, don't totally discount it, but his XFIP is 4.11 compared to that 6.23 ERA. So I think he's dealt with some bad luck, not entirely bad luck because he's dealt with some walk and homer issues. He's got a 3.70 BABIP.
Yeah, I do like XFIP because it neutralizes homers, and I think over time, homers do come in clusters, whereas FIP does not neutralize homers. I know some people like FIP more, maybe because they don't believe homers should be neutralized. I believe they should. And then Sierra does, it's kind of Sierra usually matches up more with XFIP than it does FIP.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to totally write it off. It certainly has its value. Would you say that's your favorite of the estimators that are publicly available? Of the
publicly available, but you have to keep everything in context.
Right.
You have to. All right.
You can't just have one that's like the magic answer key.
Right. I mean, all right. So I look at the XFIP. All right. I'll look. I go to home runs. Was it against a team that hits a lot of homers? Do they all come in one game, etc. And or are there other factors involved? Matz, I think I don't love LA. Trout could hit 3 in a game, and Mini Trout and Renfroe there, and Ward, a bunch of good left-handed hitters, and Ohtani can hit anybody. Obviously, I don't love that, but it is in St. Louis.
All right, so we're wrapping things up here. McClanahan's a 5. No reason to get into that one.
No.
Texas got 2 off days, so no 2-star pitchers for the Rangers.
Oh, his is interesting.
Yeah, here are a couple interesting ones. Jose Barrios and Yusei Kikuchi, who's been just awesome. 4-0 for Kikuchi, who seems to have turned over a new leaf. Barrios still having his issues. They're both at Boston and at Pitt. So if you've been riding the Yusei Kikuchi train, you've been loving it, and I wouldn't see any reason to hop off now.
Right.
I think I'll have Kikuchi actually as a higher grade than Barrios. So I'm thinking actually, now that I think about it, they both feel like 3s to me.
Barrios has thrown 7 innings the past 2 games, Houston and White Sox, only 12 strikeouts. I think that I'm going to go, I want to say both 4s, but then you will write down Zola's an idiot. All right, I'm going to go 3 as well.
I wouldn't think so, because I think there's very much a case for both guys being 4s here. I just played it safe a little bit.
I mean, I'm with you. I agree. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to say 3, but I think with both of them, I'm curious because I know you shouldn't let 1 or 2 games affect your thinking too much, but I think this is a key for both of them. And hey, if you're listening, what do you think?
Yeah, I would love to know Rob Silver's take on those guys. Check out the sleeper, or not the sleeper.
I was talking about
launching.
I was talking about Rob Leibowitz.
That makes sense too. That would work. Mackenzie Gore, it's been a rough start to the season for the Nats, as everyone expected. But Mackenzie Gore's been a bright spot.
Yeah, I didn't realize. Someone in my latest Todd takes complimented me because it opens their eyes to players that maybe didn't realize they're doing so poorly and so good. McGore opened my own eyes. McGore. That's his nickname, right? Gore opened my own eyes, kind of, because the team's terrible. But you know what? Mackenzie Gore isn't.
No, he's been pitching really well. And then he's versus Chicago at Arizona, too. So
won't love 16
35
walks.
35 Ks in 27 innings, but those 16 walks. Only 2 homers, though.
19 hits. He's got some he's kind of the opposite in that he's had a lucky BABIP and a lucky home run per fly ball, but you can't fake 35 strikeouts. So you got to hope that when the hit regresses and he starts giving up more base hits, that the walks come down organically and he kind of stays where he is. So now I completely forget. The Cubs in Arizona. Don't love Arizona, but it's against he's a lefty and they're stronger against righties. I want to say 4, but I'm going to say 3.
Yeah, I was tempted to say 4, but I think he's kind of as good as he's pitched. I still kind of think he's kind of in that Barrios Kikuchi mix, mid tier, very much so. Trevor Williams pitched okay, but I just never trust these, limiting contact guys, as we've talked about. Not really actual skill. So I'm gonna go 0.
I am too
on Trevor Williams. All right. Well, let me just mark down one last little thing here in the outline, and here we go. We'll recap the starting pitching grades. 2-start pitcher grades for the week of May 1st, 2023. Zach Gallen 5. It's an easy one. Bryce Elder, I say 4, Todd 3. Kyle Wright 2. Tyler Wells 3. Corey Kluber, I say 0, Todd 1. Tanner Houck 2. Drew Smiley 3. Jameson Tyone 2. Luke Weaver 0. Ryan Feltner 0. Michael Kopech 1. Michael Lorenzen 0. Luis Garcia of Houston 4. Zach Greinke a 1. Tony Gonsolin a 2. Sandy Alcantara, I say 5, Todd 4. Eric Lauer, I say 1, Todd 2. Tyler Malley, I say 4, Todd 3. Max Scherzer is a 5. Cody Senga is a 3. Domingo Herman, I have 1, Todd 2. Taiwan Walker a 2. Roansy Contreras a 3. Blake Snell 3. I say 3, Todd 2. Logan Gilbert, I say 3, Todd 4. Ross Stripling a 1. Stephen Matz a 3. Shane McClanahan 5. Jose Barrios 3. Yusei Kikuchi 3. Mackenzie Gore 3. Finally, Trevor Williams a 0. Great stuff, Todd. Anything else on your mind today?
2 quick things. If you're listening live, lineups lock pretty quickly. There is a 4:00 game today, 4:00 Eastern. If you're listening, afterwards, hopefully you got your lineup changes in. To tie up the fly ball thing that we talked about a little bit earlier, fly ball distance is about matching last year's. Home runs have fallen to about match last year's. But again, it's April. Things usually go up. I do not know that we're going to go up as much as we thought we were going to go up earlier. But we exactly don't know. We don't know exactly how pitching is going to turn out to be. But run scoring has settled down a bit. We were tending towards 2021 for homers. We've fallen below that level. Whether we go up or not remains to be seen. But I think small sample. We fell into a bit of a trap early on, and I think we're settling. Even with stolen bases, are settling a bit. The success rate now is down to 79.6. It had been the 80s for most of the year.
Well, thanks for digging that up. That's a good way to kind of wrap things up on the show, and I'm glad you circled back for us on that because I'd kind of forgotten that we talked about that.
No, Fangraphs is fun.
Good stuff. Yeah,
Fangraphs.
I know that Todd, or not Todd, you're Todd. Jason Collette had an article earlier that he was, close to making some widespread declarations on the run environment, but it's interesting that scoring has dipped back down a little bit. But as the weather heats up,
no, scoring has stayed up. Home runs have fallen a bit.
But didn't you say scoring has dipped back a little bit? Closer to 2021.
And I thought it was actually the home runs that
scoring.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and the scoring is going to be so tough just because of the BABIP now is where it has been previous to last year and the year before. Again, though that tends to go up a little bit. Even though, why does BABIP go up? I think BABIP goes up because runs go up in general. And more people on base, you pitch better out of the windup than you do out of the stretch. So I think that it just naturally, that doesn't make sense because there has to be more guys on base. I don't know. I'm not sure why BABIP is so low in April compared to the rest of the year. You would think it would be more consistent, but something to think about.
Well, great stuff. Always a pleasure hosting with you, Todd. The Hall of Famer himself, and good luck this weekend. I hope the best for you with Sean Manaea there in Mexico City. And thank you all for stopping through and hanging out with us. Hope you'll join us next time on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by Rival Fantasy.